rain slashing sideways as if the sky itself wanted to drown the earth. Ethan Sterling stumbled through the forest, soaked to the bone, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Mud clung to his once pristine shoes, his designer shirt torn and smeared with dirt. Each step felt heavier, as if the forest floor was conspiring to hold him down. His mind spun with flashes, Serafina's smirk across the boardroom table, the chorus of gasps when she unveiled forged evidence implicating him in fraud, the flashbulbs of cameras as his name trended worldwide. Betrayal had a face, and it was hers, beautiful, cold, and triumphant. A branch snapped under his foot. He staggered, barely catching himself before collapsing again. "Keep moving, Ethan," he told himself. "You can't stop now. Not here. Not when she thinks she's won." Lightning split the sky, illuminating a lonely cabin at the edge of the trees. Its windows glowed warmly, like a beacon in the storm. He half ran, half fell toward it and banged weakly on the door. Inside, Lila Hart looked up from her sewing. The storm had kept her indoors all day, but she didn't mind. The quiet of her rustic cabin was her sanctuary, until the pounding at her door broke through the storm's howl. Heart hammering, she grabbed the heavy flashlight by the door and cautiously opened it. What she saw made her gasp. A man stood there, drenched, shivering, blood on his temple. His sharp jaw and piercing gray eyes were almost too striking to belong to someone so disheveled. He looked like a fallen prince, one who had fought a war and lost. "Please," he rasped. "I just need somewhere to—" He collapsed before he could finish. Lila's instincts kicked in. She dropped the flashlight, kneeling beside him. Hey, stay with me." She managed to drag his unconscious body inside, her small frame straining against his weight. The storm howled louder as she shut the door and locked it. "Great," she muttered, half to herself. "Just what I needed, an injured stranger in the middle of a storm." Still, she fetched towels, a blanket, and her first aid kit. Something about his face, even unconscious, stirred a strange pull in her chest. Whoever he was, he didn't look dangerous, just broken. When Ethan awoke, the world was quiet except for the crackle of a fire. His head throbbed, but the warmth was heavenly compared to the storm outside. He blinked, finding himself on a worn but clean couch, a blanket tucked around him. "You're awake." The voice was soft but firm. He turned to see her, Lila, standing near the fire, drying her hands on a towel. Her long dark hair was in a messy braid, her face makeup-free but radiant in a way that city women rarely were. There was a wary kindness in her eyes. "You hit your head," she said. "Do you remember your name?" "Yes," Ethan said hoarsely. He hesitated. Giving his real name could be dangerous. If Serafina had hired someone to find him. "It's Ethan," he settled on, dropping the sterling. She nodded, apparently satisfied. "I'm Lila. You're lucky I heard you. What happened?" He searched for a believable lie. "Car broke down a few miles back. Then I lost my wallet somewhere in the mud. Been walking since." It was true, just not the whole truth. Lila frowned but didn't press. She brought him a steaming mug. "Chamomile tea. Drink slowly." He took it, the heat seeping into his chilled hands. "Thank you," he said, and meant it. Her small smile surprised him. "You look like you haven't slept in days. You can stay here until the storm passes. There's not much room, but it's warm." Ethan's throat tightened. He hadn't experienced this kind of generosity in years, kindness with no agenda. He nodded, unable to speak. Over the next few days, he grew stronger. Lila nursed him without asking too many questions, though her curiosity showed in the way she studied him when she thought he wasn't looking. One morning, as she chopped vegetables for stew, she said casually, "You've got calluses on your hands. But your shoes, they're not exactly working man's shoes." Ethan almost smiled. "I used to work a desk job," he said carefully. "Guess I wasn't very good at it." Lila arched a brow but let it go. "Well, you're good at chopping wood. You saved me an hour yesterday." He found himself smiling. "Guess I've got to earn my keep somehow." Their banter grew easier, though the secret he carried weighed heavier with each passing day. Days became a rhythm. Morning chores, shared meals, evenings by the fire. The forest, once a place of escape, began to feel like sanctuary. Ethan surprised himself by enjoying the simplicity, fixing fences, hauling water, even repairing the old generator. He felt his muscles ache in a way that was oddly satisfying. One evening, they sat outside on the porch, the storm long gone, the sky clear and full of stars. "You can actually see the Milky Way out here," Ethan murmured. "Of course," Lila said. "City lights blind you to what's always been there." He glanced at her, noticing the quiet wisdom in her tone. "You like living out here?" Lila hesitated. "It's peaceful. After my dad passed, I needed a fresh start. This cabin was his, so I stayed. It's not glamorous, but it's mine." Ethan felt a pang. She was opening up, trusting him, and he was still lying about who he really was. "You ever think of leaving?" he asked softly. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think, what would I be leaving for? A louder place? A bigger paycheck? This," she gestured to the forest, "feels real." He swallowed hard. The world he'd left behind, was that world even real anymore? Or just a gilded cage? Later that night, lying awake on the couch, he realized with a start that he didn't just admire Lila, he was falling for her. And that made the lie between them unbearable. While Ethan found solace in the woods, the city burned with scandal. Serafina sat at the head of the Sterling Enterprises boardroom, her smile shark-like. "Ladies and gentlemen," she purred, "Ethan Sterling's absence has left this company vulnerable. For the sake of our shareholders, we must act decisively." Her allies nodded. The smear campaign was in full swing. Headlines screamed about missing funds, missing CEO, and speculation about Ethan's disappearance. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen, Ethan's loyal assistant, sat in a cramped apartment with files spread across the floor. He had been with Ethan for 5 years. He knew his boss wasn't a criminal. "Come on," he muttered, combing through documents. "There's a pattern here." And there was. Forged signatures, manipulated timestamps, shell companies tied back to Serafina. The deeper he dug, the clearer the picture became. Serafina had orchestrated everything. When Marcus finally traced a lead about Ethan's last known credit card use near the mountains, hope surged. "Hang in there, boss," he thought. "I'm coming for you." Back at the cabin, life seemed almost normal. Until the day Lila found the watch. She was tidying up when she noticed something glinting under the couch. She reached for it and froze. It wasn't just any watch. It was a limited edition designer piece worth more than her entire year's income. Her pulse quickened. That wasn't all. When she checked his coat pocket to hang it, a half-eaten energy bar fell out, the wrapper stamped with the Sterling Enterprises logo. Sterling. The name tickled something in her memory. That evening, as Ethan chopped firewood, she turned on the tiny TV she rarely used. Static cleared just in time for a news broadcast. Ethan Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises, remains missing amid allegations of massive corporate fraud. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. She turned slowly toward the window, where Ethan's silhouette stood against the setting sun. When he came inside, she was waiting. "Who are you?" she asked quietly, holding up the watch. Ethan froze. "Lila. You lied to me," her voice trembled. "You're Ethan Sterling. You're all over the news. Fraud. Disappearing. And you came here pretending to be, what? Some lost traveler." "I had to protect myself," Ethan said desperately. "And you? You don't know what Serafina." "I don't care about Serafina," she snapped, hurt flashing in her eyes. "I cared about the man who chopped wood with me, who laughed with me under the stars. But that man was a lie." "Lila, please." Ethan stepped closer, but she stepped back. "I can't trust you," she whispered. "Not anymore." The next morning, she was gone. No note. No trace. Just the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the cabin. Ethan stood alone, his heart breaking in a way no boardroom coup could match. Ethan stood in the empty cabin, rain streaking down the windows like tears. Lila was gone. The blanket she had given him was neatly folded on the couch, as though she had erased every trace of her presence. He grabbed his coat and ran outside, calling into the trees. "Lila! Please, listen to me!" The only answer was the wind whispering through the pines. Hours passed. He searched along the muddy trails until his legs ached, but she was nowhere. By nightfall, drenched and defeated, Ethan returned to the cabin. Marcus's voice echoed in his head. "You can't disappear forever, Ethan. You have a company to fight for." For the first time since the coup, Ethan felt truly hollow, not because of the company, but because Lila had seen him as something more than a disgraced CEO, and now she was gone. He packed a small bag, grabbed the mud-stained watch she'd thrown on the table, and left the cabin. This time, he wasn't just running. He was going back to fight. 2 days later, Ethan sat in a grimy diner at the edge of a small mountain town, nursing a bitter cup of coffee. He dialed the only number he trusted. "Marcus." "Boss." Marcus's voice cracked with relief. "Where the hell have you been?" "Long story," Ethan said. "I need you to pick me up." And Marcus, Serafina took everything. She has the board, the press, the shareholders. Marcus was silent for a moment. "I've been working on that. I found forged contracts, shell accounts, emails. She's dirty, Ethan. Very dirty." "Good. Gather everything. And one more thing," Ethan's voice softened. "I need you to find someone for me. Her name is Lila Hart. She lives somewhere near the Ridge cabin, but she's gone." "You want me to track down a girl?" "She's not just a girl, Marcus." Ethan's grip tightened on the receiver. "She's the only person who believed in me before she knew who I was. I need to make this right." Marcus sighed. "All right. One takedown of a corporate queen and one lost girl. Got it. I'm on my way." When Marcus arrived hours later, he nearly didn't recognize Ethan. Gone was the clean-cut CEO. In his place stood a man with stubble, worn boots, and the haunted eyes of someone who'd seen his world burn down. "You look like hell," Marcus said, half grinning. Ethan smirked faintly. "Feels about right." They drove back toward the city, headlights slicing through the night. Ethan stared out the window, his mind already plotting the war ahead. In the city, Serafina Vale now, was at the peak of her power. The media painted Ethan as a disgraced runaway CEO, and she leveraged that narrative to push for a hostile takeover. "By next quarter," she told the board smugly, "Sterling Enterprises will be under my sole direction. Ethan Sterling will be a footnote." Her assistant nodded, though uneasily. There were whispers of Marcus gathering evidence, rumors of Ethan still being alive. Serafina's smile turned cold. "Find him. And if Marcus Chen gets too close," her manicured nails tapped the desk, "make sure he regrets it." Meanwhile, Marcus and Ethan worked in secret. "I've got documents linking Serafina to the offshore accounts," Marcus said, spreading papers across Ethan's hotel room. "But it's not enough," Ethan muttered. "The board will never side with me without a smoking gun." "Then we find it," Marcus said. "And we find Lila. She might not want to be found, but you can't win this fight with your heart half missing." Ethan didn't respond, but Marcus was right. Every night he dreamed of her walking away from him, her braid swinging like a sentence. Lila's world had shifted too. She had taken a job at a seaside motel miles away from the mountains, throwing herself into work to forget the man with storm-gray eyes. The ocean roared outside her window at night, but it couldn't drown out the memories. "He lied to you," she reminded herself as she changed bed sheets and scrubbed floors. "He's not yours to worry about." But she couldn't forget the way he had looked at her that last night, like a man drowning, reaching for the one thing that could save him. One evening, Marcus finally caught a lead. A motel clerk remembered a woman who fit Lila's description: quiet, hard-working, paying in cash. Marcus called Ethan immediately. Found her. Coastal town, motel off the highway. Room 6. Ethan's heart pounded. "I'm leaving now." "Ethan," Marcus warned. "She might not want to see you." "I know," Ethan said, grabbing his coat. "But I need her to hear me out." When Ethan arrived at the motel, he stood in the parking lot for a full minute, gathering his courage. Lila stepped out of room 6 just as he approached. She froze, the laundry basket in her arms slipping slightly. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. Ethan's throat tightened. "I came to tell you the truth. All of it. And to say I'm sorry." "Sorry." Her laugh was bitter. You lied to me, Ethan. You let me fall for someone who didn't exist. He existed, Ethan said, stepping closer. The man who chopped wood with you, who sat under the stars, that was me. I just didn't trust myself to tell you everything. I was scared. Not of you, of losing the one place where I felt like just a man and not a headline. Lila's jaw trembled. And now? Are you still scared? Yes, Ethan admitted, his voice raw. But I'd rather lose everything, my company, my name, than lose you without telling you the truth. Her eyes searched his face, looking for any trace of a lie. What she found instead was a man stripped bare. You don't owe me anything, Ethan, she said finally. You're wrong, he said softly. I owe you everything. You reminded me who I am. And now I have to fight, not just for my company, but for us. The wind carried the sound of the waves as silence stretched between them. Lila exhaled shakily. If I help you, this doesn't mean I've forgiven you. I'll earn that, Ethan vowed. Every day, for as long as it takes. That night, for the first time since leaving the cabin, Ethan slept without nightmares. Because now, he had a mission. Destroy Serafina's lies, reclaim his name, and prove to Lila that love built on truth could survive even the fiercest storm. The next morning, Ethan sat at the small motel cafe, nursing a coffee when Lila joined him. Her expression was guarded, but no longer hostile. Tell me everything, she said simply. Ethan did. He told her about Serafina, how she had orchestrated the coup, planted fake documents, turned the board against him, and destroyed his reputation overnight. Lila listened, arms crossed, but her eyes softened as he spoke. You loved her once, she said quietly. I thought I did, Ethan admitted. But I loved the version of myself she wanted me to be, cold, ruthless, untouchable. You saw the man I could be without all of that. She was silent for a long moment, then finally said, if we're going to fight Serafina, we need to be smart. What do you have so far? Ethan blinked. Marcus has documents, he said carefully. Emails, contracts, witness statements. But we still need something big. Something that makes it impossible for the board to side with her. Then let's find it, Lila said, surprising them both. I may not know much about billion-dollar companies, but I know liars. And I know where they usually slip up. That was the moment Ethan realized this fight wasn't just his anymore. Lila was in it too. They set up a makeshift war room in Marcus's apartment, papers covering every surface. This is where she forced a vote to oust me, Ethan said, pointing to a document. Lila leaned over it, sharp-eyed. Look at the timestamp. This email went out at 11:45 p.m. Who schedules a board vote at midnight? It's like she was rushing before someone could stop her. Marcus grinned. You're good. She's very good, Ethan said softly, meeting Lila's eyes. Lila looked away quickly, but the faintest color rose in her cheeks. News of Ethan's return spread like wildfire. The media swarmed the Sterling Enterprises building, reporters shouting questions. Mr. Sterling, where have you been? Are the fraud charges true? Who is the mystery woman seen with you? Ethan ignored them, but Serafina didn't. She appeared on national television, perfectly composed, crocodile tears glistening as she spoke. It breaks my heart to see Ethan resort to desperate measures, she said. He's aligning himself with outsiders who don't have this company's best interests at heart. A photo of Lila flashed on the screen. Lila's stomach dropped. She's coming after me now. She wants to scare you off, Ethan said, fury tightening his voice. It won't work. But it wasn't just scare tactics. False stories began circulating online. That Lila was a gold digger, that she had a criminal record, that she was manipulating Ethan for money. Lila's hands shook as she scrolled through the comments. Maybe I should back off, she whispered. No, Ethan's voice was firm. This is exactly what she wants. If you leave now, she wins. Lila looked at him, torn. This isn't just about you anymore, Ethan. She's dragging me through the mud too. I know, he said softly, taking her hand. And I'm sorry. But I promise you, we're going to end this. Together. The next blow came from an unexpected place, Ethan's father. You've caused a scandal, son, Mr. Sterling said when they finally met. The elder Sterling was stern, silver-haired, and intimidating. "Serafina is the scandal," Ethan shot back. "She forged documents, stole from the company." "Do you have proof?" Ethan hesitated. "Not enough yet." "Then you have nothing," his father said coldly. "If you want my support, you bring me irrefutable evidence. Otherwise, you're wasting my time." Ethan left the meeting fuming, but Lila stopped him outside the building. "He's not wrong," she said gently. "You can't beat her with half a case." "So what? We just wait until she burns everything down?" "No," Lila said, her eyes flashing. "We find what she doesn't want anyone to see." That night, as Ethan brooded over the documents, Lila sat across from him, studying his face. "You don't just want to clear your name," she said softly. "You want to prove something to him. To your father." Ethan looked away. "He spent his life telling me I wasn't ruthless enough to run this company. I can't let him think he was right." Lila reached across the table and touched his hand. "Maybe you don't have to be ruthless. Maybe you just have to be right." Ethan looked up at her, something easing in his chest for the first time in weeks. It was Lila who spotted it. "Wait," she said, flipping through an email chain. "This invoice number doesn't match the others." Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "She's right. This one's off by a single digit." "That's not a typo," Ethan said, scanning the document. "It's a cover-up." They traced the invoice to a storage facility on the outskirts of the city. "This could be it," Marcus said. "Or it could be a trap," Ethan muttered. "Then we walk in ready," Lila said, surprising them both with her resolve. The next night, under the cover of darkness, they broke into the facility. Rows of file boxes lined the walls. Marcus found it first, a box labeled Private. Inside was a ledger with handwritten notes linking Serafina to every fraudulent transaction. Ethan exhaled slowly. "This is it. This is how we end her." Lila smiled faintly, relief washing over her. "Then let's end it." The Sterling Enterprises boardroom was packed the next morning. Reporters buzzed outside the glass walls. Serafina stood at the head of the table, poised and ready to deliver her final blow. "As you can see," she said smoothly, "Ethan Sterling is unfit to—" "Save it!" Ethan's voice rang out as he strode into the room with Marcus and Lila behind him. Serafina's smile faltered. "You shouldn't be here." "Oh, but I should," Ethan said, dropping the ledger onto the table. "Because I have proof." One by one, Marcus displayed the documents, emails, and the damning ledger. Gasps echoed around the room. "This is absurd," Serafina snapped. "Is it?" Ethan said calmly. "Because your handwriting is all over these pages. The offshore transfers lead straight to your accounts. And the midnight board vote? Illegal." The board members whispered among themselves. "Enough," Mr. Sterling's voice boomed. He looked at Serafina coldly. "You're finished." Security entered moments later, escorting a pale, furious Serafina out of the room. Ethan turned to the board. "My name is clear. But more importantly, this company deserves better than corruption. That ends today." For the first time in months, the room erupted in applause. When the boardroom cleared, Ethan found Lila standing quietly by the window. "You did it," she said softly. "No," Ethan said, walking to her. "We did it. I couldn't have done this without you." Lila met his gaze, and for the first time since the cabin, her lips curved into a real smile. Serafina's manicured hands were cuffed as she was escorted through the lobby of Sterling Enterprises. Flashbulbs exploded as reporters shouted questions. "Serafina, do you have a statement? Is it true you embezzled millions? Did you frame Ethan Sterling?" Her mask finally cracked. "This isn't over," she screamed, her eyes wild. "You'll regret this, Ethan." But Ethan didn't flinch. He watched silently, his jaw tight, until the doors closed behind her and the media circus swallowed her whole. Inside, the board held an emergency vote. By unanimous decision, Ethan was reinstated as CEO. Mr. Sterling approached him after the meeting, his usually stern face unreadable. "You fought well," he said finally. "I see now I was wrong about you." Ethan exhaled, tension he'd carried for years easing from his shoulders. "I didn't do it alone." His father's gaze flicked toward Lila, who stood near the window. For a moment, something like respect softened his expression. "Keep people like her close, son. They make men like us better." Ethan turned to Lila, who met his gaze with quiet strength. In that moment, he knew he didn't just want her close, he wanted her forever. The celebration after the board meeting was grand, but Ethan slipped away from the crowd. He found Lila on the rooftop terrace, the city lights stretching out like a glittering sea. "You're hiding," she teased gently. "Maybe," he said with a small smile. "Or maybe I was looking for the only person who matters tonight." Her breath caught as he dropped to one knee. "Lila Hart," he said, voice steady but full of emotion. "You found me when I was lost. You believed in me when the world turned against me, and you fought by my side when you had every reason to walk away. I don't want to spend another day without you." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring, a single diamond in a gold band, nothing flashy, but full of meaning. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled Lila's eyes. "You know this doesn't erase everything, right?" she whispered. "I know," Ethan said softly. "But I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never have a reason to doubt me again." A slow, radiant smile spread across her face. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, Ethan Sterling, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, the city below them roaring like applause. Weeks later, Lila returned to her cabin to gather the few things she'd left behind. The storm-damaged floorboards had warped slightly, and as she moved a rug, she noticed a loose plank. Curious, she pried it up, and gasped. Inside was a small compartment containing a delicate antique locket and a faded letter, yellowed with age. The letter was addressed to Elena. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The letter spoke of danger, of a whistleblower exposing corruption in a powerful organization, of a mother forced to disappear to protect her child. "Mom," Lila whispered. Her mother had vanished when Lila was a little girl. She had always believed she was dead. When Ethan arrived later that evening, he found her sitting on the floor, clutching the letter. "What is it?" he asked gently. "It's my mother," Lila said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "She didn't abandon me. She was protecting me. She's out there, Ethan. She's alive." Ethan knelt beside her, pulling her close. "Then we'll find her," he promised. "Whatever it takes." Ethan mobilized his network. With Marcus's help, they tracked down old records, financial trails, and witness statements. Piece by piece, they uncovered the story. Lila's mother, Elena, had been a whistleblower who exposed a major cover-up involving a government contractor. She had gone into hiding when threats were made against her family. The search led them to a quiet coastal town 2 states away. When Lila finally knocked on the door of a small, weathered cottage, her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. The door opened slowly. A woman stood there, older now but unmistakable, the same green eyes, the same gentle smile. "Mom." Lila choked. Elena's hands flew to her mouth. "Lila." They fell into each other's arms, sobbing. "I thought I'd never see you again," Elena whispered. "I thought you were gone," Lila said through tears. "All these years." Ethan stood back, watching silently, his chest tightening at the sight. This was what Lila deserved. Answers, closure, family. That night, they sat around Elena's small kitchen table as she told them everything. Lila held Ethan's hand under the table, silently thanking him for bringing her here. Months later, on a warm spring afternoon, Lila walked down a flower-lined aisle toward Ethan. The ceremony was simple, intimate, just close friends, Marcus beaming proudly, and even Mr. Sterling looking uncharacteristically emotional. Lila wore a flowing ivory dress that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Ethan, waiting at the altar, looked at her as though she was the only person in the world. When she reached him, he whispered, "You're breathtaking." "And you're mine," she whispered back with a smile. The officiant spoke, but Ethan and Lila barely heard the words. When they were finally pronounced husband and wife, Ethan kissed her like a man who had fought every battle, survived every storm, and come home at last. The reception was held under strings of lights in a blooming garden. Lila danced barefoot in the grass, laughing as Ethan spun her around. At one point, Marcus raised a glass. "To Ethan and Lila," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Proof that love can survive betrayal, scandal, and even corporate politics." Everyone laughed and cheered. Later that night, as the guests drifted away and the music faded, Ethan and Lila sat on the porch, watching the stars, just as they had the first time they really saw each other. "This is where it started," Lila said softly. "No," Ethan corrected gently. "This is where it begins." She leaned against him, the ring on her finger glinting in the starlight, and for the first time, both of them truly believed it. Because their love story wasn't about storms or boardrooms or even redemption. It was about two people who had been broken and chose to build something stronger together. The end.